Hello, and welcome to Mythological Tours, hosted by yours truly. Let's take a dive into some of the most famous mythologies of the past. We begin with the ancient civilization of Greece, a land surrounded by large rolling hills, islands, and seas. Athenians and Spartans residing here with two different ways of life, but very similar religious beliefs. Many of these ancient people believed in many gods, with each god having its own purpose. There was one famous man among these, however, whose story still continues to intrigue many, and is part of a featured Disney movie, but which is somewhat accurate but not entirely correct. The first of many, we have Hercules, a man whose godlike strength made him unmatched and unrivaled among mortals. He was given the task of fighting off the Titans as 12 heroic labors to make up for a horrific crime he had committed. The crime in mention was the murder of his wife and children after he went insane from the goddess Hera's tricks. Hercules begged to be punished for what he'd done, even if it was not truly his fault, and was asked to do the 12 labors. At the time when Zeus told Hera of the pregnancy of his mistress, Hera was enraged and wanted to curse Hercules by slaying him with a pair of snakes. This, however, failed because Hercules strangled the snakes before they could strangle him. Back to the 12 labors. What were these 12 labors? These labors included the following: slaying the Nemean lion, slaying the Lernaean hydra, to snare the Armenian boar, cleaning King Augeas' barn of dung, to drive away the Stymphalian birds, to capture the Cretan bull, which created the very first Minotaur, by the way, to capture the horses of Diomedes, to steal Hippolyte's belt, to steal the cattle of Geryon, and to steal Hera's gift to Zeus, the apples of Herpeides, and then finally travel to the underworld with Hades, where Hades resided, and kidnap Cerberus, the three-headed beast. Only through completing these grueling tasks, upon Hercules' death, was he finally allowed to join the other gods on Mount Olympus in immortality. Next, we travel to the cold mountains of the modern-day Baltic states, where the Norse reside. Many have heard of these stories of Vikings, and many believe them to have had braided hair, large, long ships, axes and shields, and horned hats. We know this now not to be entirely true, but also not entirely far off. Among these Nordic Vikings, one hero stands among them. In the Marvel comics, we see him with a winged helm, red cape, and a hander that can call thunder. In the mythology, he is the man named Thor, who fought the serpent circling the world beneath the sea. This serpent went by the name Jormungandr, one of the children of the god Loki. Loki had other children as well, but were all born without the knowledge of the gods and ravaged the world of Midgard. The children of Loki had been sentenced to different fates. Hel was sentenced to the underworld, where she became its ruler. Fenrir, the giant wolf, was bound in chains, and Jormungandr was tossed into the ocean as a baby, but grew to such a size that it gripped its own tail to completely encircle the world beneath the sea. Thor was tasked to find and slay this enormous beast to prevent it from causing any more harm to the world, and with a mighty blow from his hammer did he slay the beast, to Valhalla. Next, we travel to the land of the Irish to find the Celts, in a place full of sunshines and rainbows in a literal sense, as well as cool summer misty days. Many stories and cultures derived from this mythology. One of these is that of the trickster god Lugh. Similar to the Nordic mythological god Loki, Lugh was a god of mischief and a trickster god. He used cunning and his skill to be a powerful and feared warrior. Within this land there was also another major common belief. Instead of Valhalla, heaven, or a form of eternal resting place, there was instead an other world, for lost souls to venture after death to await a new rebirth. Now venturing further south into the hot, dry, and arid desert sands, we have one of the most ancient cultures to date, the Egyptians. along the Nile River that supplied the Egyptians' empire, and the mighty pyramids and sphinx built from sand, mud, and clay, and the backs of slaves, and other Egyptian marvels, one of the most appealing factors in this mythology is that of the Egyptian gods. There are many gods, and some of them include Ra, Mut, Nut, Khnum, Ptah, Nephthys, Nekhmet, Hemsut, Tefnut, Sokar, Selket, Sekhmet, Sobek, Sheshmu, Reshpu, Wadjet, Anubis, Anukis, Heket, and Maftet, to name a few of many. However, one of these many gods by the name of Horus was famous for his ties to the throne. His mother was Isis, and his father was Osiris. At the time of Horus's birth, Osiris was the pharaoh of Egypt. Osiris's brother Seth, however, murdered him and chopped him into 14 pieces to scatter across the sands of Egypt. Isis, wanting to protect her son, ran away with the newborn Horus and found Osiris's pieces, putting them into a coffin. This made Osiris the god of the underworld, and once Horus grew older, he went on to battle his uncle for the throne, and to avenge his father. Horus won and defeated Seth in glorious combat, making Horus the pharaoh, and the god known as the Avenger. Venturing even further south into the African plains, we go to visit the Yoruba tribe. Down here in the African plains there is little water or shelter to be found from the intense heat, but regardless of the harsh conditions, these people still thrive here. Among them, their stories and tales thrive with them. One of these stories depicts a trickster god similar to Loki or Lugh in Norse and Celtic mythologies. This being goes by the name Yeshu. Yeshu had stolen the god's sandals to make footprints to the high god's garden. From there, he stole the high god's yams and accused the high god of stealing his own yams. But because of this lie, the high god therefore punished Yeshu and commanded him to report to him every night as his personal messenger for eternity. Because of this story, many learn the consequences actions can have, and why deceit is never good. Next, we travel to a place far east in Asia, an area shrouded in mystery and mist, a place full of massive mountains and much rain. This is the mythology of the Chinese. The Chinese were a group of people who overcame many struggles of living in this area by devising new kinds of methods and techniques. One of these, for example, was the use of terrace farming, or farming in steps to allow for water drainage to equally water crops and to effectively grow their staple crop, rice. Among the Chinese, they had a couple of different religions. Taoism, Buddhism, and Confucianism were the main three. Within the Taoist beliefs, however, lied the 8 immortals. They were He Xiang, Qiao Zhou, Lan Shi, Lu Dongbin, Han Zhangzi, Zhang Guolao, Zhang Laiquan, and Li Teguai. The one we are focusing on is Li Teguai. He was commonly known as Iron Crutch Li, and depicted as a grumpy old man carrying around an iron crutch. He tended to the sick and the elderly, but was also seen as quite bitter. Li came to be this way, however, because of his ability. He was able to separate his spirit from his body to travel among realms. He asked his disciples of one simple task: to watch his body and to burn it on the 7th day should he not return. However, the disciple had news of his own ill mother and cremated the body of Li a day early. So when Li came back to his cremated body, he had to quickly find a new one, and settled with the body of an old man who died of starvation. He took on and accepted this new grotesque form, becoming a wandering healer and a guardian to many. Last but not least, we settle our roots in the land of the free. After traveling the globe, we are left with one last mythology to look at, and this is the land of the Native Americans. In a place where some tribes lived, in a lush, dense forests in the east, to dry, arid deserts in the south, to great, vast plains in the central area, or even the freezing cold and icy areas of the Arctic, modern-day Alaska. There were many stories and beliefs of these early people. In the cold north with the Inuit tribes, they had a deep respect for seals and believed the animal would allow itself to be caught. Because of this, they honored the seal sacrifice and would use every part of the animal. Something similar to that was that of the Cherokee and the bison in the Great Plains. In the southwest, where it's hot and arid, the pueblo, for example, had little water and survived by making homes of clay in the sides of cliffs, mountains for shelter. While on the opposite side of the country, the Iroquois were living in large wooden houses made by bending wood and covering it with leaves. The Cherokee, however, used animal hides and large branches to make teepees. Another one of these aspects, however, was their beliefs. Many tribes believed highly in great animal spirits, and most tribes had a deep respect and connection to animals in nature. One of these stories is the story of the coyote and the wolf from the Navajo tribe. The wolf was a wise healer who would bring his people and other spirits back from the dead through their power. The coyote, however, was jealous of this power and told the wolf to stop bringing back the dead, as it would leave no more room for any more men or women in the future. One day the coyote came running to the wolf in a panic. The coyote's son had been bitten by a rattlesnake, and Coyote begged the wolf to save him. But the wolf, being wise, took the coyote's advice, and he did not revive the coyote's son. The son of the coyote became the first being to die because of this. We traveled across the globe and discovered many cultures, from the blistering colds and icy lands of the Norse and the Celts, to the unbearably hot and arid lands of the Egyptian and African, and even to the great vast lands of the Chinese, Greek, and Native Americans. Their stories and legends have only begun to be told to this day, and even now, there is still much to learn and discover from these ancient civilizations. I hope you like the presentation I have given to you today. There is much information to cover, and there is still so much more out there to explore. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and bye-bye. Dizzo out.